Hello. We have a Game Boy that just doesn't want to turn on. Probably because they don't have batteries. But as you can see, nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's also got a bad screen, but I'm not going to worry about that. As the sticker says, there's no power. It has been cleaned, and pretty much all the solder that matters has been reflowed. I will show you what I do for my normal process now. After I'm going to take this apart real quick. There are 6 tri-wing screws on the back. Pop that up, which we're a little early on that. 3 Phillips screws. And we can just pull that out. Boom. Easy peasy. So what I do for pretty much every Game Boy now, at least every Game Boy Color, is I reflow all the solder on these points down here. Our headphone jack, the power plug, if anybody actually uses this, the speaker wire, and then over here, I reflow all the pins for the power board. I reflow the volume wheel because this gets a little worn out after a while, and reflowing and cleaning helps it tremendously. And obviously, I fix the power switch. That is the number one thing I recommend everybody do, is clean their power switch. This one was pretty dirty. There was like a bit of corrosion. I actually swapped out this power switch piece here, just the yellow tab part. The rest of it's fine. Our battery terminals are all good. This board has been thoroughly cleaned on both sides with IPA and a toothbrush, multiple go-rounds, flux remover, the works. It's still not working. So I decided to go around with my multimeter, and I found almost instantly that this capacitor right here, obviously has been messed with, was shorting. Both sides connect to ground. That is not what we want. I swapped it out, and even still, we've got a ground pad here. If you couldn't hear that, that was shorting to ground on both sides. That's not good. So even though I swapped the capacitor and it's still doing that, that must mean there's a short somewhere else. What does this connect to? This chip here. But if we go searching around with our multimeter, we find continuity on these pins over here. And with that, we find that a couple of these pins are shorting to ground, which if we grab another board, we can see that we don't have continuity with ground on these pins, just on this one over here. So I'm assuming that this board right here is not good. So we're going to swap out these 2 boards here. This is not going to be super amazingly easy. We need some hot air, and it's going to be loud. But I'm essentially just going to flux this up, heat it up, lift it up, and hopefully not melt this connector. And what I'm going to do is actually put some Kapton tape down. I don't know how good that's going to protect that, but hopefully decent enough. There's going to be a bunch of noise here, so I apologize. I'm either going to talk loudly, or I might do some voiceover, or this might just be a time lapse because there's not much to it. I'm also going to better align that capacitor. It was that easy. I also ended up removing the capacitor just because it was still shorting to ground on that pin, and it's not supposed to. And I just cleaned up the area while the heat gun was still cooling down because that is really loud. And if we test it here, we're still shorting to ground, and I don't know why. I might have to bust out the microscope. I am not seeing anything on this board that looks out of the ordinary. Nothing looks wrong. I guess I can keep checking capacitors to see if there's any bad ones. But I thought this was going to be a simple swap. I guess I'm wrong. I'm also going to compare between these 2 boards. I know they're slightly different revisions, but it shouldn't matter. From comparing these 2 boards, this should be the ground pad. This should not be shorting to ground because this is the ground side over here, and this does not have any continuity with ground, which is correct. I know this is a half a board and is also a parts board because I broke this before, but for the most part, I think we can trust it. What I need to figure out is where this goes next. I wasn't really talking that much there. I think I found the problem, and it is a capacitor. So if you follow the board, I'm going to do it on this because this is still shorting to ground. We've got this bottom side of the capacitor goes to these 2 vias over here, which is also to this resistor. If you flip it over to the other side, you follow the traces, you go from this via to this via. That's kind of hidden underneath the bail of this, but this one doesn't have a bail anymore. So we go here, which it goes underneath here, so it's a little hard to follow, but it leads you to this capacitor here, which does not have continuity on both sides. And when you check to ground, only grounds on this side, does not ground on this side. So if you follow here to here, it has continuity on both sides. It has continuity on both sides. It has continuity on both sides. So we can remove this capacitor and see if the shorting stops. I can't find if this capacitor goes any further, so let's just remove that capacitor, see what we're dealing with. Just gonna put some flux down, use my soldering iron, because should be able to reach both sides of the capacitor. It's still shorting both sides, really? It's still shorting to ground on both sides. Okay. Oh, man. I guess the search continues. Okay, so I found a bunch more vias. So if we connect up here, oh, focus, please. Okay, manual focus. That'll do. If we connect to here, to VDD5, we have some continuity. We have continuity here, 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 and here, and here. So we've got 1, 6, 7 possibilities. Fun. I'm going to just keep testing the capacitors down here real quick. Okay, so we've got a capacitor shorting here. We've got a capacitor shorting here. And this is pretty much shorting to every single pin except for this one. That one's shorting. I guess I shouldn't say shorting. 3 of the 5 pins go to ground. Now let's check on our other board. I don't want to say known good because obviously it's not known good. Okay. Only the left 2 pins should be. So I'm going to remove this thing here and see what happens now if that removes those shorts. Just because there's going to be a lot of components to remove here. And I'd rather just remove that one. So we're going to try that. Okay, so we keep digging. Guess what? No, you probably can't hear that, but this is also shorting to ground. All the way over here. I'm going to have to get another board because we can't test down there. Oh my gosh. Is it just been the power board this whole time? Have I been following a short all the way from up top just to find, oh, it's not that. It's this. It's this thing that went bad. And we got 1 point ground. That should not be ground. That should not be ground. This should be ground. Only the bottom 2 should be ground. What do we get over here? Ground, 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 not ground? That pin is shorting to ground. Okay. Question is, do I remove the capacitor or do I remove this? It's going to be easier to remove the capacitor. So I think I'm going to start with the capacitor. But I have a feeling that it's just this. Can we see anything noticeable on the power board that's wrong? I don't see anything wrong with it. Okay, I'm just going to desolder the power board and see if there's still a short on this. Thank you, donor board. We're going to use some solder wick to desolder this. I don't really want to do the whole hot air thing, but I will be running the air purifier because it's a lot of fumes. I've been doing that lately. I've been trying to do better. Since I already have bad lungs, probably shouldn't make them worse. For little solder jobs, I don't bother, but this is going to be a lot of fumes. Okay, so if this still shorts, then it's got to be this capacitor. If not, I have no clue. Please, please don't short. God, why? Okay, does this? No, that does not connect with any of those. Okay, cool. So that board in theory should be good. Is it literally just this capacitor? Or is it still something else? I don't know. I'm starting to lose it. Okay, please stop. Let the ringing stop. Okay, well, that's supposed to happen. Did we find it? Oh my gosh, it's been that one capacitor the whole time. I just started from the wrong spot. You're kidding me. You're actually kidding me. Okay. I'm just going to do a time lapse of putting this all back together, and then we'll put in a new capacitor, and we'll be good, I think. Let's test these capacitors while we're here. Okay, we're good. Yeah, time lapse it up, baby. Okay, before we go any further, let's do a little bit more testing. Make sure we're not shorting to those places anymore. Cool. Great. There are no shorts anywhere. Let's get out a new capacitor. There's our new capacitor. Turn off the iron once again. The negative side, the flat side, is on my right. So we will make sure it's the same way. And we can heat up that solder. Slide that pad in there. Heat up that other side. Push it down. Maybe. Clean up the flux. And is it shorting? No, it's not. Beautiful. I'm going to clean up this board one more time, just all over. Even with flux remover, it still gets everywhere. And let's test this. The D-pad has seen better days. Gross. Just going to swap these membranes out real quick. I know it's gross, but whatever. We're just testing. We're just going to test it. That's all. Because eventually I'm going to use this to mod. It's got a bad screen. It's destined to be modded. And I'm pretty confident. I mean, I have no idea if the speaker works or the buttons work or anything. But I'm confident it's going to power on. Come on. I was so confident. Okay, I literally just need to re-clean the power switch or something because that's it. It's just the power switch. It was a little musty when I cleaned it before, but everything else is working fine. Phew! I knew I was right to be confident. All those buttons worked out. You couldn't probably see that. But yeah, it's just the power switch needs to be re-cleaned. And the more I do this, the better it gets. Okay. I mean, do I really need to show that? I've done it a million times on the main channel. I've already cleaned it. Like, it's been deep cleaned. I didn't show that I did that here, though. Well, apparently that wasn't soldered down very well. Yeah, it's pretty freaking clean. Just cleaning it with the fiberglass pen. It's the softest thing I can clean these things with. I did that pretty much entirely off camera. Nice. I'm just cleaning it up now. Results. So, it is working. It's good. Power switch works every time as the red light comes up. Every time. I would recommend, if your Game Boy isn't turning on, I would start from the power switch, cleaning that up. Then I might go from the power board and that capacitor opposite the way that I came down to there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got unlucky. And maybe that is the way you should travel. But maybe you should probably start with the power regulation, especially if all those capacitors are shorting. I don't know. I'm learning. I'm trying to help you learn too. Or entertain you, whatever you want. I don't know how to end this one. I didn't know that was going to happen on... It killed it. Wow. Doing double thumbs up froze OBS. Mac OS, ladies and gentlemen.